It was like 3:30 in the morning, and so we drove down and we just, sight unseen, this guy just walks through the car park with a dog on this rubbish lead. And I was like, Ricky? I was like, yeah, there you go. And I remember he said to the dog, he says, oh, have a nice life. And off he went back into the night. Mad. And we put this strange dog in the back of our Mini and drove back to Carlisle. And I couldn't even get the day off work. So that was, as I say, like 3:30 in the morning. I'd go to work in the morning and this strange dog in the house that wouldn't sleep.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the podcast. This is Chatzzz episode 21. This is the second take because the first take I forgot to put the GoPro on. So we've got a very special guest, and we've got Ricky Beaty. Welcome to the podcast.
Morning.
So the one thing, the way we do the podcast now is we get the guests to introduce themselves to the viewers. So if you'd never met somebody before in real business or personal situation, how would you introduce yourself to somebody new?
So my name's Ricky and I'm a cloud architect. And then the way I normally follow that up is because nobody knows what a cloud architect does. I generally say, well, they would generally ask and you'd say, well, you know, the apps on your phone, you know, they're all storing data and all that business. We look after the data. That's the simplest way I've found to say it.
Yeah. How do you find people react then when you say cloud architect?
Do you know what? I try not to tell them because, like, anything IT is not terribly interesting, is it? So even if we do get onto that, I like to try and move it on because I'm not going to sound like a rock star telling them I'll press buttons all day, you know what I mean?
Because I find that similar to me, say, for example, is if I said to someone I do social media marketing or digital marketing, they'd be like, oh, what's that? Or, what's that? But if I say marketing, like, oh, yeah, that's cool. It's just like that slight couple of words or that slight word, and it just completely changes the reaction. Yeah, which is mad. Totally. So I've prepped you. So tell us 3 facts about yourself.
Right. So I'm a very dull person. I've got 1 fact that's awesome, and then another 2 that I was like, nah, don't know, say that. I didn't do university. That'll be the first fact. I didn't go to uni. I did college, and then just started work because I didn't really fancy it. Second fact is Nigel. He's my best pal. He's on the floor down here. You won't be able to see him.
Let me move the GoPro quickly for the YouTube viewers.
Hey, Nigel. Oh, yeah. There you go. Oh, there you go. And then now the best boy, ain't you, mate? So this is Nigel. This is my best pal in the land. He comes to work. He goes everywhere with me. Yeah. Fact number 2. Well done, pal. First podcast done.
He's trying to steal the show now.
Good. And the third fact, so this is the only one that I thought was actually interesting. I was an Olympic torchbearer for London 2012. Oh, wow. Carried the flame down Warwick Road for 100 metres, I think it was.
That's crazy.
So it's part of the torch, really.
See, they're more interested than you think. You third one. So the first one, you never went to uni. So why was that then? Why did you go to college and not go to uni?
So I ended up doing a foundation degree at Carlisle College, which is what they used to call a HND, I think. And then they changed it just the year I did it and they were calling it a foundation degree, which makes it sound really rubbish and unfinished, I think. So yeah, the idea was that you did 2 years at Carlisle College, and if you wanted the full degree, you had to go to Preston for a year. So I had a pal that did that and I just didn't fancy it. Part of the course that I did do, you had to do a placement at a business, and at the end of that, they offered me a job, and I was like, all right, so I can go to Preston where I don't know anybody, do the student thing, which would be cool, but like you'd start in year 3 and everyone already knows each other by then, whatever else. Or I can go and make some money, buy a car. So I bought a car.
Oh, that's interesting. Because I think like the system these days, isn't it? It's very like go to school, get your A levels, whatever, or whatever it is, and then go to uni, isn't it? And then get a job, that kind of thing.
And that was kind of when you were asking for 3 facts and I was thinking about different things to say. That's why I settled on that one, because I was like, well, everyone's different. And as you say, like the status quo is that you go to school, you got 6th form, you go to uni. And I was just like, well, I didn't. And it panned out okay. So
yeah, and we'll go into more about that later. But yeah, like even when I went to uni, I did something completely different to what I was doing now. I did hospitality management.
Yeah.
And now, obviously, I used to do events and marketing now for the last few years, whatever. And it's like, can do whatever you want to do, isn't
Yeah,
it?
totally.
If you got a bit of motivation and determination and good work ethic, if you set your mind something.
And even though you studied something different, do you find that you use parts of that in what you do now, or is it just totally?
I think working in the industry, yes, like maybe not actually like the uni curriculum and stuff like that, not really, because the course I did wasn't really that academic, you know. I didn't learn that much. But say like when I used to work in hotels, I definitely learned a lot and use some of that like management skills or like people skills, time management, all that kind of thing in what I do now. Yeah, definitely. I think that's the same with everything. You pick things up along the way and you think, oh, I like that, I don't like that, add things in. But yeah, and the second fact, what was the second fact again?
That was Nigel.
That's a Nigel. So how long have you had Nigel?
We've had Nigel since he was a pup. He's a rescue from the Republic of Ireland. And the way he came about, so some pals of ours, they got a dog from that same rescue, Callie. Callie's Nigel's best pal in the land.
Yeah.
And my friend Tori, who got Callie, she wanted another one. But her husband was like, no, we've got kids, got one dog, we've got cats. I think she had rats at the time.
Cats.
He was like, no more animals. So she sent this advert for a dog called Rusty to my wife Scarlett, and was like, "Yeah, Scarlett, what do you think of Rusty?" And so Scarlett was just to me like, "Oh my word, we have to have this dog." I have to admit, I wanted to be like, no, you know. But I saw him and I was like, oh. So yeah, the next thing is he was bought, paid for everything, and the way that it works is a volunteer from England goes down to Heysham, I think it is.
Okay.
If it's not that, it doesn't matter. Some port, and they're loaded onto the ferry on their own, obviously in crates and stuff. And this guy goes to collect all these animals that have been homed in the UK from Ireland. And we had to meet him at limb services on the motorway at yeah, man.
Dodgy.
It was like 3:30 in the morning, and so we drove down and we just, sight unseen, this guy just walks through the car park with a dog on this rubbish lead, and I was like, Ricky? I was like, yeah, there you go. And I remember he said to the dog, he says, oh, have a nice life. And off he went back into the night.
Mad. And
we put this strange dog in the back of our Mini and drove back to Carlisle. And I couldn't even get the day off work. So that was, as I say, like 3:30 in the morning. I'd go to work in the morning and this strange dog in the house that wouldn't sleep.
Here we are.
And here we are. Yeah, best pals ever since.
Yeah. Have you always had a dog then? Or?
Yeah, I always had family dogs. Yeah. He's my first dog. So the ones we had when I was growing up, I was a bit young for them to like be my responsibility.
More like a family dog, yeah.
Yeah, totally. So I really enjoyed training them and everything. It was something totally different to the day job and everything like that. It was like, didn't really have much to do with animals, but I read up quite a lot about how dogs learn and how they think and everything like that. So it was really interesting to learn about how they work and to train them.
Yeah, that's interesting. So third one is you're a torchbearer.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
So I used to work for Capita, and I think how it worked is they banked with Barclays. Barclays had so many places on the torch procession thing, and they went out to their corporate clients and were like, oh, who do you want to do it? And I got nominated and got selected and everything. It was the people in Carlisle office that nominated me. And yeah, they just asked if I'd like to do it. And I was like, are you on glue? Of course I'd like to do it. So the next thing was, you get on this, there were two buses. So there was like a massive procession of cars around the torch relay. There's a bus in the front, a bus in the back. And you'd be called up and you get off the bus at the front and you go and meet the person who's giving you the flame and you touch the torches together in this certain way. And of course, there's a guy there like making it happen, making all the technical bits work. And then that's it. You've got the flame. They turn the other one off and you start walking down the road and the street's lined with people shouting and cheering and all this. This is all like, wowzers, trousers. It was cool as flip, man.
What does it feel like?
Really surreal, because as I say, everyone's cheering and everything. I'm like, I haven't done anything.
Is this for me or?
I don't know, just walking down the road with a metal stick, you know. I've still got the torch. They let you keep the torch.
Really?
Yeah. So they deactivate it. So you get on the bus at the back and they do it there and then. There's a guy at the front, he takes like the the mechanism, I'll call it, out the top. It's got the gas canister on, and they like start snipping bits of it away because it's like an Olympic kind of folklore thing that the Olympic flame is a special thing, and you mustn't light it again. And you imagine having a barbecue, next to apparently it's not the done thing, so they deactivate it so you can't ever light it again.
Oh, really? Where's it now then? Just in
It's in my office at home. I need to get a stand for it. It's in its sleeve.
That's sick.
Put away, but yeah, I should display it.
Yeah, you should have had it.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. So in the next part of the podcast, we'll kind of go back to either a little Ricky or like what you were like before setting up, obviously, Beaty Consultancy. So what would you say you were like then, growing up as a kid?
Growing up, do you know, broadly the same as I am now. Yeah, terribly immature, lots and lots of energy, and I remember I always liked to know how things worked. So my dad was a mechanic all his life. Retired, a few years ago now, and I think I just got that from him. I'd see him doing DIY around the house, and I had my toy tools and that, and I'd be there. I remember once the mum shouted because I had a toy plane. And I was here on the door frame, playing in the door frame with this plastic toy. But of course, he was taking the paint off. I was going for it, Like, Dad does a better job than this. I'm going to have to put more effort in. It's always been like that. And always, as I say, loads of energy. And I just like to know how things work. Like if there's a manhole cover open or, the telephone box on the street, just stop and just be like, all right, what's all them wires doing?
Yeah.
Where do them pipes go? Why is that like that?
Yeah. Would you say you enjoyed like school?
Yeah, I think I did.
Yeah.
I think so. Try to think. I think you'd have to say, if you were charitable, you'd have to say I wasn't achieving.
I can imagine that though.
So yeah, perhaps I wasn't always the best student, but I did enjoy lessons, I think. I used to enjoy the technical things. I liked science and maths and stuff. Not so much art and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I was pretty good. Yeah.
You say like academic or not really?
I think so. I like rules when they make sense. So like maths, something's either correct or it's incorrect in maths.
Yeah.
And I like that.
It's a definitive answer, isn't there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. However, if there are rules for rules' sake, that's something that winds me up.
Yeah.
So that's where I kind of struggle with the fluffier sides of things. But
Like English.
I think English.
I was kind of similar. Like maths is probably my best subject. I really enjoyed that. But yeah, if I had to like write something for the sake of it, me personally, I'd just be like, what am I writing here? It's like no right or wrong answer. It's just like the style you write, and I just wasn't as good at that.
Yeah.
But like you say, I preferred like that is that for that reason kind of thing. So it's like logical.
Yeah, logical. Yeah, it's good.
Which makes sense. So then you said earlier, like when you finished school, you went to college, then did you, and not uni. So what was kind of your thinking? Obviously, you touched on it a bit earlier, but then obviously you said you wanted to get money and have a car. Was that one thing that was like you're passionate about growing up, cars and stuff like that? Because I know we talk about cars sometimes, don't we?
We do. Cars was always a thing for me. As I say, my dad was a BMW technician all his life, so all my life I looked up to BMWs. I was like, one day and all this business. And I would go up on a Saturday morning and help.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was totally a thing when I was at college, and I was like, I just want to get going. I'd sort of had enough of learning in that setting. Obviously, it's most people enjoy learning all the time, but I'd had enough of academia, if you like.
Yeah.
So yeah, I left that, and as I say, I was given a job starting at the bottom at Capital, like I was saying, and I was just able to work up from there, and it just suited me at the time. I loved it.
Yeah. I think just going back slightly to, like you say, learning and education, I feel like a lot of people though, when they say like finish school or university, they stop learning. And like say exercise, isn't it? You exercise your muscles to build muscle and stuff.
Yeah.
And then people, but as soon as they finish like school or uni, they stop exercising the brain, don't they? And that's when a lot of people stand still, just in their own little routine of say going to work and just doing whatever. But I think it's important to either, I don't know, whatever you like learn about, like reading books or audiobooks or podcasts, for example, or stuff like that, just to make your brain work, because otherwise then how are you going to progress? It's just like thinking, isn't it, really?
Totally. And if you think you know what you want to do as a career, then there's always stuff to learn about that. Like you must know from the way that you would market something now compared to even 5 years ago. We were just talking about TikTok before we started recording. And of course, that wasn't a thing. And now you've had to learn it and embrace it and get good at it. And it's the same as what I do. There are new technologies all the time, new ways of doing things. And if you don't learn them and you don't embrace them, then
You're left behind.
you're left behind. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think these days as well, like everything's such fast paced, isn't it? And if you're not willing to learn or adapt, then you, like say, you will get left behind, don't you? And then people will climb up and overtake you and that kind of thing. And that's what you don't want, isn't it, really?
Exactly.
So what was it like then getting your first job? You said you were given the first job, and what was kind of like your experience for that?
Yeah, so I had to do, I can't remember, was it 6 weeks or something? I had to do a work placement for the foundation degree. And I went and worked for Capital, like I say, and I got on really well with everyone in the IT department there. And I think it worked well because, like I was saying, lots of energy. I like people, and I was doing desktop support. So it would literally be, printer doesn't work. And in them days, because I'm pure old, in them days, you wouldn't remote onto their screen. You'd go out to them. So you go at the desk, and of course you have a chin wag while you're there. You know, they have a cup of tea with them, whatever else, and you get to fix some stuff. And yeah, I just loved it. And at the end of that, went back to college, finished all the bits and bobs. I worked with the daughter of one of the technicians at First Line at Capita, and so she knew me from the cinema where we worked, knew that I was finishing college. And her mom was like, "So do you want to come and work?" I was like, "Yes, I."
What made you want to do that type of job then to start off with?
I think the computer side of things came in fairly early. I'm trying to think. We got a computer. It had Windows 98, and I think it was 99 we got it, because I remember the whole Millennium Bug thing. And our computer had a Millennium Bug certified sticker, which anyone who works in IT now knows was a complete nonsense. But hey, if you can charge for it, I would have gone around lashing stickers up. Oh yeah, Millennium Bug certified, no bother. So yeah, that was the first computer we had, and I remember I just kind of was like, oh hello, this is pretty good. This is something I can be quite good at. And it was the old thing, like most people who start in IT, they're the one in the family that fixes things when they go wrong. And it was just that. And so I kind of knew that's what I wanted to do. So that's why I did, instead of sixth form, I did a vocation course at college before the foundation degree. And it just went on from there. I think, yeah. So I knew fairly early on that it was computing that I wanted to do.
Yeah. So how did it go with your first job? Did you learn a lot with yourself, or learn new skills, or what was kind of like the steps after you started?
Yeah, so it was, a lot of things are different to academia, and I think everybody finds that when they leave uni or college, whatever else, things that work totally different in the real world, and it's much more about people and relationships.
Oh, massively.
And I remember there's a guy, Kev, and he spent a lot of time with me, and looking back now, I know that it would have been easier for him just to do things himself rather than explain it to this freaking 18-year-old that's coming in, doesn't know, one end of the wassail from another. But the fact is, he did spend his time with us, and I'll always be grateful for that. And that's one thing that I think I've taken forward, is that, it is the relationships, it is bothering yourself to go and meet new people and work with and help people. And because that's the reason I got to where I got to, is because people helped me. Yeah. And that was a big thing that I learned. But yeah, I loved the job. And I got the promotions as the years went on, and ended up looking after offices out in Cumbria. So I had a van, and I would go out and go and fix things in other offices, and I loved it.
Yeah. I think, like you said there about people helping you, and like, it can be two kinds of people, can't there? There can be like one type of person who is always looking down, isn't it? And thinking, oh, I need to put them down, need to like shit on them basically to make yourself look better. Or there's, like you say, another kind of person who realizes there is enough money and opportunity in the world for everyone to succeed, isn't there? And you shouldn't really waste your time and energy trying to put other people down, because they're just trying to do their own thing, aren't they? Totally. And you should always rise above it, shouldn't it, in that case. But I think that's a good outlook to have in life, isn't it, really? Yeah.
No, I mean, it can be a bit deep, but you kind of think about the important things, and you're like, well, it's the people in the world that are the important things. You know, we're all proud of the things that we own and we build and we have and everything like that. But it's not really important, is it? You know, we can all got to look after each other, don't we?
Yeah, exactly. So you said you got a few promotions and stuff then, and then what was kind of like after that when you were driving around in your van looking at different offices?
So from there, I went and I headed more down the software support route. So there was another internal team that would look after applications that their devs would build, and would deploy out into the wider business to look after different business processes and stuff like that. So I worked for them for a bit, and then I did something a bit different. I went and worked for a company that was looking after software for oil and gas. And that's where Nigel gets his middle name, actually. So a product called IBM Maximo. And so Nigel was the official office dog. Yeah. And so he turned to Nigel Maximo Beaty.
Great middle name.
Yeah.
Hard for him to spell, though.
Yeah. Doesn't say on a dog collar. He gets his full name when he's in bother. So yeah, that was really cool. I learned a lot from doing that, because oil and gas, like, there's just untold amounts of money flying around in the oil and gas industry. But the other side of that is there are massive expectations. So if you take a production pipeline down for, 10 minutes, how many millions of dollars does that cost a company? Yeah. And so that is just not an acceptable situation. So you have to put controls in for the controls and a policy for the, everything. And so that was wasn't totally different, because obviously everybody's bothered about their software staying online, but it was just another level of this is quite important now. And I loved it. I loved that. So in fact, I'll be honest, I've liked every job I've done. I've been lucky that way. I know a lot of people don't do something they love, and I always have done.
I think, yeah, like you say, it's hard, isn't it, for some people? Some people aren't bothered, are they? Some people just care about the money, aren't they? They go to work, do whatever they do, get paid, go home, don't have the stress and worry, and then do the same thing the next day. But I think it's important, isn't it? There's like something on social media, like graphs of how much time you spend at work in your lifetime. And it's like some crazy amount in percentage. So it's important to either work with people you like or do something that you love, isn't it?
Yep.
Otherwise you are, in my opinion, wasting your life, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
But I think some people are happy, aren't they? Just go, nothing wrong with it, like either stacking shelves or working in a factory, whatever, getting the money and going home and doing that. But that's not for me.
It depends where else you get your joy in life, doesn't it? If you're working a job that you hate, so you can go, I don't know, try to think of an expensive hobby, motorbiking, on the weekend, you want to go, cross. What's the thing where you drive a motorbike on a field? That thing.
Motocross, sometimes. Yeah.
I think all the words were there. Just got in the right order. I don't know. Yeah, if you're just doing something as a means to an end, and that's where the joy comes from in your life, power to you. But I think for us, work is a big part of where we get our enjoyment, isn't it? So,
massively, yeah. Because I think that was one of the things, say, when I was at uni, I was going to go and work in hotels, and I did really enjoy it at the time. And I was that age from 19 to 21, 22. Then when it came down to it, to getting a full-time job in it, I was thinking, is this actually what I want to do with my life? And I was like, no. Even though it was a big decision and stuff, and that's all I'd done, but I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I'd rather do events and just see how that goes and that kind of thing, where people as well may think that they've got one career, haven't they? And they have to do that for the rest of their lives. And say, my dad, he's been an accountant all his life. So he's only had one job. But I think these days, you can flip between whatever kind of things you want to do, isn't it? People change like that. You can learn so quickly. So if you're ever thinking of changing career or quitting your job, there's always another job out there, isn't it? There's another career path you can go down, especially if you've got relatively no commitments, say in your 20s, as someone like me.
Right.
Even 30s, but really. You can flip between a few things, can't you? Because you're only young. You've got plenty of time.
Yeah.
Think of how long you're going to be working for, like 40 or 50 years.
Oh, we'll never retire.
But yeah, I think it's go for it, isn't it, really?
Well, I was talking to this is a long while ago, actually. It's still with us. He was talking about his son and what he was going to do. I think he'd skipped a year ahead. He's super intelligent, this guy's son. And so he's going to uni, but he was undecided what he was going to study. And of course, everything was a little bit harder for him because he's got to be younger than everybody else and all these challenges. And he was saying there's so much pressure on kids these days to know what they want to do for the rest of their lives.
Scary.
And you're like, blimey, heck, that's a queer thing to wrap your head around. And so what he was saying is, he said to his boy, what's next? Let's not worry about, however many years hence, what's the next thing that you want to do? What's the next thing you want to achieve?
Less scary, isn't it, like that?
Of course it is. Yeah. I mean, Chris, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? Because I don't know.
Fuck no, I don't know about that. It's like, say, if someone's addicted to, I don't know, cigarettes or something, isn't it? If you say to them, right, you have to go cold turkey, you can't smoke ever again. But if you say to them, right, I'm not going to have a cigarette today, that's a more of an achievable goal, isn't it? It's like, today, I'm not going to smoke. And then tomorrow, I'm going to say, wake up and say, I'm not going to smoke, and that kind of thing. So if you just take it, like you say, the next step, it's far more achievable. And it's human psychology, isn't it? We're stupid, really, aren't we?
Oh, it's just a load of monkeys knocking about the spot, aren't we?
And say my dad, he says he's going to apparently retire next year, next Christmas, right? So he's going to be 62 then. So I think that if you're working for like 40 years, you know what I mean? You have to do something at least you enjoy or you're good at something. It's a long time.
Oh, yeah.
And he travelled a lot when he was younger with his job and with my mum and stuff. That's why I kind of like want to travel as much as I can, see as many places when I'm young and I've got no responsibilities, because they had, you know, when they were like mid-30s or something. That's why I was born. I was born in America. So,
all right, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So
have you got dual nationality?
Yeah.
Wicked.
So I was born, my brother was only born in Carlisle, to be fair. I lived in America and in Paris when I was a baby, and then moved back. But they obviously had kids when they were ready and like settled and stuff, which is sound. But that's why I quite just like to go here, there and everywhere and just see where life takes you when you, like, I want kids, I think, in the future, but now I just want to enjoy my life, and I don't want to say be 30 and think, oh, I wish I did that.
Yeah.
When 30, like 5, whatever, and oh, I wish I did that, or oh, I could have done that, and regret it, kind of thing. You only regret the things you don't do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you're thinking about kids soon, aren't you?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we're kind of going down that path and seeing how that's all going to pan out. Yeah, it's scary, isn't it? I can just about look at this now.
It'd be a massive change, wouldn't it, though? It was probably the best thing you've ever done, though, I reckon.
Do you know what? The thing that scares me is lack of sleep. So I can deal with adversity, whatever else, fine. You wake me up and I am a horrible man.
That's Scarlett's job in the middle of the night, then.
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
You've got it on video now.
As the one time I've properly sworn at her and meant it was when I was asleep and she woke me up and something.
That's funny. So back to work stuff then. So when was kind of like the switch, or when did you kind of think, oh, I'd quite fancy working for myself then? Or do you always thought it?
Yeah, I think I always have. The thing that I like to tell people now that they're maybe thinking about making the switch is that there's no magic to it. Because I assumed that there was. I assumed that these people who start a business, they're different from me. They know something I don't.
Oh, yeah.
And that is just not the case. It's like you were saying earlier about just doing one thing at a time. You know, I don't know how to run a business. I don't know how to do accounts. Well, I've got Google. Yeah. So let's learn how to log a receipt. That's a thing that I can manage to do. Let's learn that. And then before you know it, you're writing invoices, you're doing this, that, and the other thing, and it's no bother. But to answer your question, like how it came about, it was, I could see a change in the industry. So I've always done IT, as I say. And at the time, I was looking after a team that looked after a server farm that was hosting some fairly mission critical apps. We were looking after apps for Transport for London and bits and pieces like that. And I could see the way things were going is, if we don't do cloud, we're going to go under. And because of the structure of the company and the way the contracts work and a lot of public sector things, it wasn't really a goer in that environment. And so I looked around, I was like, well, do I want to change jobs? Do I want to go and work somewhere else that does more cloud? And I was like, well, I don't have the experience. So how do I get the experience? Well, I'll try it myself. How hard can it be? So I just started taking on clients on the side. And I look back now and I was, working silly hours, doing the full day job and then coming home and doing a, evening shift till, 11, 12 or whatever. And frankly, looking back, not being terribly good at it, but putting enough effort in to cover that gap, you know what I mean? And then it just kind of snowballed from there. I got a lot better at doing what I was doing. I got certified and this, that and the other. And in the end up, I kind of forced the decision on myself. I was like, well, you're working a day job and a night job now, and you've got a couple of clients and we're getting a little bit of money in, and that's great. Is that all it's ever going to be? Is that going to be of the money that you're saving up for a holiday or whatever else? Or are you going to make the switch and make that your actual thing? And obviously talked it over with my wife, Scarlett, and she's always been mega supportive. She's like, yeah, just do it.
That's nice, yeah.
Yeah, it was super important. And again, a lot of people don't have that support, and it makes it 10 times harder, I imagine.
Yeah, super important, isn't it? Support, either from, like, say, your partner, your parents, something like that. Like, my mum and dad have always been really supportive of me and stuff. Yeah. So sorry, you spoke to Scarlett then, and then when did you take the leap?
I just did it. Yeah, I surprised myself when I did it. I knew there was one of the managers I had to speak to, and she was away in meetings all week, and I knew it was going to be that week. I'd psyched myself up. It's going to be this week. We're going to do it. We're going to quit. And it was Friday, and she was only in the office on the Friday. And it was last thing on the Friday. There weren't many folk left. And I went, can I just borrow you for 5 minutes? And off I went into a meeting room, and I kind of surprised myself that off I was walking to the meeting room in the back of my mind, knowing what I was going to say and what was going to happen. And then I just did it. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna leave. And I think I gave them a fair bit of notice because there was no reason not to.
Yeah, leave amicably or whatever.
Yeah, of course. And that was it. And then I remember the Friday night when I'd finished the last shift, because we used to work at a few different shifts because we had to cover, certain operating times and whatever. And so I shut up shop that day. I was the last man in. Turned the lights off on the way out and everything. I got home and I was absolutely shaking. Yeah. What have I done? And I'll never forget this. Scarlett took us to my favourite pub in the town. I used to love the Fat Gadget. And she took us to the pub and was like, right, off we go. She didn't ask. She just like, right, how are you? She drove and off we went to the pub. And I tell you, it was what I needed that day. And she was just like, it's fine. Like, you know what you're doing. Yeah. Got a plan. Just do it and it'll be fine. And it was.
Yeah, mad, isn't it? I remember, because I had a proper job. I worked for an events company that I worked at throughout uni, but I worked for them full time for like 3 months. But I was still running my events on the side, similar to you, I suppose. And then basically my boss at the time didn't like that I was, the initial deal was I can run events on the side. And then he didn't like that I was doing events. And then he kind of like kicked off and was like, you shit at your job, all this kind of stuff, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to pay an extra penny, get out my sites. And then like made me leave on that day. And it was like a Friday or something. And I was like, what do I do? What do I do? How am I going to make money and stuff? And I remember I emailed them being like, basically like, I quit, but more formal. And then drove home, didn't tell my mum and dad. And then when I drove back to Cardiff, like a few days after, I woke up and I was like, what do I do now? I don't have a job to go to. Don't have anyone paying me money. And I was like, I'll just do exactly what I've just been doing, but just full time now. I've got more time. Stuff like that. And you just kind of just go from there, don't you? Like you say, nobody's telling you what you should and shouldn't do. You just kind of do your things right.
Yeah.
Make loads of mistakes. Don't make the same mistake twice. Yeah. And yeah, like you say, there's everyone that owns a business is just a normal person, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
And I say maybe in the last year, say like the bigger clients, well, maybe not the bigger clients, but like say the clients who generate more revenue for their business, I always used to think like, it must be a secret sauce or something, or these are like some kind of superpowers or whatever, but you get to know them. And they're probably the most down to earth people out of anyone. Just love the crack, don't they? Yeah. Which is mad, so...
And again, it goes back to the human connection as well, doesn't it? The only thing that I can see in common with business owners is that they are approachable and they will approach other people. And I'm not wild on networking events, and frankly, I'm fairly out of my comfort zone doing this, what we're doing. But you have to be able to do that because people buy from people. And not to get too salesy, but that was one of the things behind starting my company, because when you start off and you think, well, how am I going to be different from the things that I've done before? Because otherwise, why would you not just work with somebody else if you're not bothered about like structure and things like that? And that was one of the things I wanted to do is bring things down to a more human level, because obviously, and this will be with things that you do as well, there are some really technical aspects of what we do. But does the client really understand all of that? And do they need to understand?
And do they care?
Do they care? Should they care?
No.
I don't think they should.
No.
You go into the garage because your car's making a noise. I kind of want to know what part you've replaced, so, so I know I'm not getting ripped off. But I'm not interested in the diagnostic and all this business. I just want a car to work in the same respect. I just want more people to see my business when I'm working with you. And people that work with us just want to, have their stuff hosted securely and everything like that.
That's what I mean. It's putting things in layman's terms, isn't it? And I feel like when, say, I first started, I'd be like telling them like all the intricate details, and you just see the glazed look on their face, and you think like, do you want to know this? And you realize they don't.
No.
They just want to see, like you say, more brand awareness or more sales or more revenue or whatever. And that's just a learning curve, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So when you started on your own then, what was kind of like the journey from there to where you are now?
It was really incremental. Really incremental. It's quite a slow start. I had maybe 4 or 5 clients when I set off on my own, and they were all really supportive as well. I was always open and honest with all of them. They knew that I had a day job and that this was on the side, and that one day I hoped that it wouldn't be on the side. And as I say, they were all super supportive. And when I reached out to them all and said, look, I'm here all day now. Anything you need, give us a shout and we'll sort it. And I just got myself all over the kind of job aggregator boards. And I just found that pushing that USP got more clients in the door. So when somebody's asking for, whatever job to be built, and you come in with a proposal that looks different from somebody else, you just start that conversation. And then it was, just more and more clients. And when you get to a certain point, although sometimes you want to think, well, I'm so different from anything that's gone before. I'm not going to put bureaucracy and process around things. But at a certain point you go, process for keeping this on the rails would be quite good, wouldn't it? So then we started getting into that, and that was what led to the more, Nigel having a stretchy background.
You'll be able to pick up that much on the mic, it'll be fine.
Yeah, and that was what led to being able to get the bigger clients and taking on staff and stuff like that was just building on the ethos of what we'd done, but adding a bit of sensible process. I think we've all worked for companies where it's just, paperwork for paperwork's sake, and it's getting that balance, I think.
Yeah, I think it is, like you say, it is being more like human and personal with people. A lot of businesses don't seem to do it. It's like you're just like a number, or people are just like spamming you or whatever, and people care more about that kind of side of things more than anything, don't they? If you're maybe more friendly, or you can show you're putting in a bit more effort, they'll give you a bit more leeway if, say, the results of the whatever it is isn't quite there, because they know that you're trying and you care and that kind of thing, really.
Absolutely.
Because even if, say, I don't know, you don't get what you expect, but then you say, oh, all right, to be fair, I can see why you hasn't, and then you try and provide a solution, then people are more understanding that way, aren't they? Rather than if you do something and you're like, I don't care anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you pay me, off I go.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's not how you're going to get anywhere, is it?
No, and that's not how you're going to progress, I don't think.
Yeah.
So obviously you said it was a bit of a slow start, which is really quite nice, isn't it? Just to plod along. And then when did you really start seeing it pick up?
That's a good question.
Or was it just literally just gradual over time, do you reckon?
I think it was, yeah. I'm trying to think of a big watershed client.
Princeton's, or was it? Or
I'm not allowed to talk about them.
well,
I'm not allowed to use the name anyway. So yeah, but it's a university in America, and they're doing some really cool machine learning stuff, and we got a contract to support them in a scientific project that they're doing. And that was a big watershed, because that was what allowed me to take on Dean. He's our first cloud technician, and he is a badass cloud technician, man. He's wicked at what he does. And that was a big one. But before then, it was, it was just one after the next. We tend to work with startups. So the way it tends to work is like somebody will have an app built, their developers will be hosting it in a sandbox somewhere, but it's not really ready for production. So like if 100 users hit it all at once, it would just fall over. And that's when they start talking to us. So a lot of our growth comes when our clients grow as well. So they've launched, they've got a bit of traction, they're getting a little bit more busy. And then, they get to a certain point where they go, well, actually, we've been kind of running along. It's done the job, but now we've actually got quite a lot of clients' data now. So should we do a bit more of a formal piece on making sure we know that it's secure and putting some alerting and stuff in place? So that's kind of how that grows as well. So we grow with our clients, which is really nice to see.
That's cool. So what was it like bringing a team member on it? I was not quite daunting.
Terrifying. Oh my word. I mean, being responsible for somebody else's income is just terrifying. I mean, I'm going to say, luckily, it's all planned out. Of course, it's a lot of hard work on everybody's part to make it work. But I do think you've got to have a fair wind behind you as well. I mean, there's a lot of misfortune that can strike, isn't there? But in general, I love it. I love just having somebody to bounce things off, because you're not always going to know the answer. And just say, Dean, I'm doing this. Have a look at that. Why is that? Oh, there, you're right. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And similarly, you just get a message in your screen. You go, right, let's jump on a call, and we'll just open up a little googly chat. And often we just open a chat and leave it there for a few hours, like we're working in the same office. I mean, we're working in the office today, but 4 days a week we're just at home. He lives up in Alston. And these days it just doesn't matter a jot, does it?
Yeah.
It's like you're next to each other.
That's like, yeah, that's cool, isn't it? It's like you say, it's leaving the chat open, and just like, if you need to ask anything.
Yeah.
I suppose it's different, isn't it? Like, even if you type in or whatever, and then you just have to schedule a call or whatever, even if it's in the background. I like that. Yeah, that's cool. So then what would you say, like, the next steps are then for Beaty Consultancy at the moment, or where you kind of planning on going? What direction?
It's sort of more of the same. So what we found is that we're doing things that the market's really demanding at the minute. So one of the key things that we do is we never build anything that isn't infrastructure as code, as we call it. So you can go onto the AWS console and you can start a server up and you can link things to it and everything like that. You can do that pressing buttons, and that's grand. But if you need to do that again, you've got to remember which buttons you pressed and exactly what parameters and all this, that, and the other. If you write it in code, you just execute that code again and you get the same output. To create that code in the first place is a bit more effort, but we always think it's worth it. And that seems to be getting borne out at the minute. Like, people are coming to us because they know that's the way that we work. And there are other things like, building servers a particular way so they can be rebuilt if they need to be. And I think it's a quality thing. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot of demand for what we're doing. So I just want to bring somebody else in and get them, on board with our vision, if you like. It's a daft word, that is, vision.
That makes sense, though.
But it is about, because it's, as we were saying before, there's loads of different companies doing what you do. Why are you special? Why are you bothering yourself to run your own company? Well, it's because you believe that things should be done in a certain way, and there's a reason for it to be done that way. So yeah, that's what I want is more technicians, DevOps engineers working to deliver really cool things for our clients.
That's nice to hear. That's interesting. Yeah. So, as a business owner, then, what would you say you probably learned then from first starting to now? Any like key takeaways or?
Be specific. It's caught us a couple of times, less so as we get on, but we all make mistakes. So, you as a client and a supplier, they've both got to understand what the deliverable is, what the definition of done is, what a successful outcome looks like for that client. And as long as you go into it both understanding what success looks like, you can get there. And where we've had bother in the past is where those two things haven't aligned. So that's the biggest thing that I've learned.
Yeah, be clear, isn't it? And
yeah.
I think especially when you work with clients, isn't it? Like, say, B2B, sometimes clients can't or don't quite understand what they may be agreeing to or what the expectations are. So if you can be black and white,
and that's your job as an expert, isn't it? I mean, that's part of your role. You're the expert at doing this thing, so you make me understand it.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So the next part is everyone's favorite part, which I know you're looking forward to, is relationship advice.
Oh yeah.
How long have you been in a relationship for?
It'll be 10 years this year. Married third. Why did I say that? Because I can't remember.
Oh, let's hope Scott doesn't watch this.
Is it three? Oh my word. I'm going to get battered if she sees this.
Can you remember what year?
Before COVID? 2019?
2019.
19.
Coming to 3 years.
November 19.
Coming to 3 years then, yeah.
Thanks, dude.
I'll keep you right. So give it 10 years and married nearly 3 years. That's impressive. I've been single I was saying before, I've been single for 4 years. I've been in a relationship for 2 days now, so let's see how that goes. So the first one, so what we'll do is I'll say if it's a boy or girl, you'll anonymously name them. I'll say what they've messaged in, and then we'll just give them some advice. I don't know why people actually message in and ask for advice.
I was going to
but
say disclaimer, nothing about relationships.
it's not that I do, don't worry. I don't think people actually pay attention to it, but people just love it.
Excellent.
So the first one's a girl. What are we calling her?
Janine.
So Janine, I swear Janine's messaged in a few times before.
Has she?
Yeah, it's an interesting name, or maybe just a common name. So Janine's messaged in and said, I've been living with my boyfriend for 3 years. I feel like there's just no chemistry there anymore. What do you think I should do? Should I try and reignite the fire, or should I end things?
So, no chemistry, but you're still living together. Are you still friends? Like, if you still like the person, if you still like hanging out, it's just, there's no romance, then that sounds like something that can be fixed. But if you just straight up don't like the person anymore, then maybe they're not for you.
Yeah, because I suppose, do you reckon you can just become friends with someone? Maybe initially, obviously, they'll maybe do whatever and living together. And like 3 years, if they've been together 3 years, it's quite a long time.
Yeah, but it's a long time to grow as a person, isn't it? And to change.
Yeah, it can change a lot in 3 years. Can't
Totally.
it?
It depends how old Janine is, doesn't it?
Janine, you need to tell me your age here.
Come on.
So what are we saying to her? Do you reckon she ends it or tries to reignite the flame?
I say, have a think about what you want. Like, do you like this person? If you do, why not? It's always communication, isn't it?
It always comes down to communication, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially if you've been together 3 years, you should be able to have a conversation with them about it, shouldn't you?
And if you
can't,
then is that telling you something?
Right, there you go, Janine. So the second one is a boy. What are we calling him?
Bill.
Bill. So Bill's messaged in. So he's recently been speaking to a new girl, speaking to her for a couple of weeks. So not that serious at the moment. But he feels like he's very, very paranoid about where she is all the time. It's very out of character. What should he do about that?
I mean, as long as he's not kind of acting on it and flipping stalking or anything whatnot, I don't think that's an entirely ridiculous thing to beat yourself up about. Obviously, that's not a feeling that you want to have. But I don't think it's ridiculous that he feels it, getting into a new relationship. Yeah, I think it's going to be the same again, isn't it? It's communication. It's, if he's feeling insecure, then...
I think, it's a difficult one, isn't it? I suppose, like, maybe if they haven't had the chat of, like, what are we now?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And he might be thinking she's meeting, like, other boys or whatever, and he might like her a bit more than he makes out. But yeah, I think what do you think? Just talk about it.
We've all been there when we think we're punching, innit? 10 years I've been punching.
You want to be though, don't you?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I think I'd always want to be with someone that like other people think, oh yeah,
totally.
What are they doing? Because otherwise, but then we wonder what the people think of the girl with the boy, thinking, why is she with him? Yeah. So the last one is another boy. What we call him?
George.
George is recently single. He's been speaking to other girls, having a bit of fun, that kind of thing, and his ex come crawling back. What do you think he should do as she ended it in the first place?
Why did she end it? Was it, it sounds like you were pretty cut up about it, George, mate. I mean,
I know.
Do you want to expose yourself to that again? And that's not a loaded question. Like, do you want to go around that again?
Yeah.
As I say, you can't have the good days without bad days, can you? So was it good when it was good?
But he said that she ended it apparently in the first place.
Yeah. Well, she didn't know what she had, did she?
Grass isn't always greener.
Exactly. Well, that's a good point. What was she doing when she wasn't with you, George?
So, she could have been sneaky and realised, George is way better than these other lads. And he's realised that the other girls are way better than her.
Yeah. Maybe.
Backfired on her.
Right.
So what should she do? Just carry on.
You knackered yourself. This is George.
This is George.
In my world, you were married now, George. So, I mean, the stakes just gone up.
There you have it. So that's a relationship advice segment. So I think now just any like closing thoughts if anyone is maybe aspiring to set up their own business or become a cloud architect or just anything, any takeaways or lessons you've learned in the past that you can maybe pass on to anyone that's watching or listening.
That's a tough one, I think. So two things come to mind is the one that we were just talking about, as in there's no logic to it. So if you think you want to have a go, just try it on the side. You don't have to, I know the media is full of all these stories of I quit my job and I did this and now I've got a yacht.
Bullshit, isn't it?
It's rubbish. Just dip your toes. Just, as you said earlier, one thing at a time. What can you do today that's going to get you a step closer to running that business that you're dreaming of? So take it one step at a time. Nobody's more special than you are. And I don't mean that in a fluffy way. I just mean that there is no secret. You know, it's not people unlike you who are running companies.
And not every day is a good day either, is it?
Yeah.
And just remember, I always say consistency is key. If you can show up every single day and do the same things over and over again that or think that work, then you will see progress, won't you, over time?
Yeah. And just iterate on things. Just, can you do that? If you're selling cupcakes, can you make it slightly better in tomorrow's batch than you did today? And on like that. And then by the end of the month, you've got the best cupcakes in the land,
There's no magic potion, is there? There's no magic way to make a cupcake taste the best in the world. No. Otherwise, then someone would have found it by now.
Exactly.
And then all you'd be doing is just copying and making it slightly different anyway.
Yeah.
So there's no like magic potion to run a business, I don't think.
And that's one thing I actually learned from you. So I knew nothing about marketing or anything like that when I came to you. And I think I had this naive notion that you just pay somebody some money and then more leads happen. Well, that's not how it works. And if it was, everybody would be doing it.
I know.
And you kind of guided me through that iterative approach to just going, well, how do you want your media to look? Who are you wanting to reach and all that business? So that's the first thing. Yeah, just one thing at a time.
Patience.
Yeah, it's a really good one. That's a really good one. And the only other thing that comes to mind is loving what you do. I still love, just this morning, wrote some badass code, man. Like, it does some cool stuff.
Yeah.
And we solved a problem that Dean have been working on yesterday. And I was like, I think we could solve it like this. Let's do this, that, and the other thing. Let's run it. Oh my word, it went green. Good news. Oh, look, now it works. And I still get a buzz from that. Like, I still think cloud architecture is just witchcraft. You press some buttons, and then all of a sudden there's an app in the cloud. Like, what?
Mad.
It is mad. And I love it. And the stuff that we do with the university and machine learning. We work with another company. They're data scientists as well. They're doing customer retention. So they're crunching tons and tons of data to be able to tell their clients how to retain their customers. And I don't know, but I'm led to believe they've got some massive clients that are relying on the inferences they're giving them. I'm just like, that's mad. If you wanted to do that 10, 15 years ago, you'd have to have, a couple of £1 million investment to build a data center out, or you'd have to rent racks in an existing data center for tons and tons of money. You'd have to maintain the hardware on and on and on and on and on. Now you can go, I've got this idea. Let's try it for, 100 quid. And you can do that. And that's just amazing. And I love it. So I love what you do.
Yeah. It's nice to see how passionate you are about it as well, you know what I mean? Nice. So I think that's pretty much the podcast wrapped up. Have you enjoyed it?
Do you know, I loved it actually.
Yeah. Is it what you expected?
It was easier than I expected.
Yeah.
I expected to just be a stammering mess. But no, I've enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Yeah, I really enjoyed it as well. Talked about stuff that you haven't even talked about before, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Which is nice. But yeah, right, everyone, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, your favourite part, like the video as well. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, make sure to follow the podcast and leave a 5-star review. And we will see you next time. Bye.